Hey there, language enthusiasts. Welcome back to Grammar Gurus, the podcast where we break down English grammar concepts in a fun and easy to understand way. I'm Emma, and with me, as always, is my co host, Jake. How's it going, Jake?
Hey, Emma, I'm doing great. Excited for today's episode because we're tackling a topic that trips up a lot of learners the present simple and present continuous tenses.
Absolutely. These tenses are foundational for English, but they can be confusing. So, let's dive right in. Jake, why don't you start us off with the basics of the present simple tense?
Sure thing, the present simple tense is used for actions that are habitual or generally true. Think of it as the tense you use to describe routines, facts, and general truths. For example, I drink coffee every morning, or the sun rises in the east. It's also used for scheduled events in the near future, like the train leaves at 6 p.m.
Right! And the structure for present simple is pretty straightforward. For most verbs, you just use the base form. I walk, you walk, we walk, they walk. But for third person singular subjects, you add an S or IS, he walks, she watches.
Exactly. And don't forget the negative form, which uses do not or does not, plus the base verb, I do not like broccoli, or she does not play basketball.
Now, let's contrast that with the present continuous tense. This tense is used for actions that are happening right now or around this moment. For example, I am talking to you, or she is studying for her exams.
Yep, and the structure for the present continuous is the present tense of the verb to be, am is are, plus the ing form of the main verb. So you get I am walking, you are walking, he is walking, and so on.
Also, don't forget the negative form of the present continuous, which is am not, is not, or are not, plus the ing form of the verb. For example, I am not eating right now, or they are not coming to the party.
Great point, Emma. Another important use of the present continuous is for future plans or arrangements. For instance, I am meeting John after work, or we are going to the beach this weekend.
So, to summarize, the present simple is for habitual actions, general truths, and scheduled events, while the present continuous is for actions happening now and future plans. But let's dive deeper and look at some common mistakes learners make with these tenses.
One common mistake is using the present simple for actions happening right now. For example, saying I study when you mean I am studying. The former implies a habitual action, while the latter indicates an action occurring at this moment.
Another mistake is the overuse of the present continuous for habitual actions. For instance, I am going to the gym every day, instead of I go to the gym every day. The first sentence sounds like you're only going to the gym temporarily, while the second one correctly indicates a routine.
Exactly. And don't forget about stative verbs, which describe a state rather than an action. These verbs like know, believe, love, hate, seem, and understand are rarely used in the continuous form. You'd say, I know the answer, not I am knowing the answer.
Right. Stative verbs can be tricky, but a good rule of thumb is if it describes a state or condition, stick to the present simple. Now, Jake, let's talk about some signal words that can help learners identify when to use each tense.
Good idea. For the present simple, look for words like always, usually, often, sometimes, rarely, and never. These words indicate frequency and are a strong hint that you should use the present simple. For example, I always wake up early.
And for the present continuous, look for words and phrases like now, right now, at the moment, currently, today, this week, and these days. These signal that something is happening in the present or is temporary. For instance, she is currently reading a fascinating book.
Exactly. Let's also mention questions. For the present simple, you use do or does for questions. Do you like pizza? Or does he play soccer? For the present continuous, you invert the subject and the form of to be. Are you coming to the party? Or is she watching TV?
Perfect. Why don't we do some practice sentences to reinforce these concepts?
Great idea. I'll give a sentence. And you can tell me if it should be present simple or present continuous. Ready?
Ready!
She to read a book now.
That would be she is reading a book now. It's an action happening at this moment. So we use the present continuous.
Correct. How about this one? They to go to the gym every day.
They go to the gym every day. This is a habitual action, so we use the present simple.
Exactly. Last one, we to have dinner at 7 p.m. tonight.
We are having dinner at 7 p.m. tonight. This is a future arrangement, so we use the present continuous.
Spot on, Emma.
Thanks, Jake. This was a really helpful review. To our listeners, remember that practice makes perfect. Try creating your own sentences and identifying whether they should be in the present simple or present continuous.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to reach out to us. We're always here to help you on your grammar journey.
Here are some questions and answers using the present simple and present continuous tenses. To illustrate their usage further, present simple tense.
What do you do every morning?
I drink a cup of coffee every morning.
How often do you exercise?
I exercise 3 times a week.
Where does she work?
She works at a hospital.
Do they play football on weekends?
Yes, they play football every Saturday.
What time do you usually go to bed?
I usually go to bed at 10 p.m.
Does he read the newspaper daily?
No, he doesn't read the newspaper daily.
What do you do for fun?
I like to play video games and watch movies.
Why do you study English?
I study English because I want to travel to English-speaking countries.
Present continuous tense.
What are you doing right now?
I am talking to you right now.
Is she working on her project at the moment?
Yes, she is working on her project.
What are they doing these days?
They are taking a cooking class these days.
Are you reading any interesting books currently?
Yes, I am reading a mystery novel.
Why are you studying so hard this week?
I am studying hard because I have an exam next week.
Is it raining outside?
Yes, it is raining outside.
Are you coming to the party tonight?
No, I am not coming to the party tonight. I have other plans.
What is he doing this weekend?
He is visiting his grandparents this weekend.
Mixed present simple and present continuous tense.
Do you usually walk to work or are you driving today?
I usually walk to work, but today I'm driving because it is raining.
Does she play the piano or is she practicing now?
She plays the piano very well, and right now she is practicing for a concert.
What do you do on weekends and what are you doing this weekend?
I usually go hiking on weekends, but this weekend I am attending a wedding.
Are you reading the same book you read last month?
No, I finished that book. I am reading a new one now.
Does he work late every day or is he working late just today?
He doesn't work late every day. He is working late just today because of a special project.
I've been thinking about how important it is to understand the different tenses in English, especially the present simple and present continuous. Do you think we could chat about that today?
Absolutely, Alice. These two tenses are fundamental in English, and getting a good grasp of them is essential for effective communication. Where should we start?
Let's start with the present simple tense. It's used for actions that are habitual or generally true, right?
Exactly. The present simple is used to describe habits, routines, and facts. For instance, we say, I eat breakfast every morning. Here, eat is in the present simple tense because it's something you do regularly.
That makes sense. So we use the present simple to talk about things that happen repeatedly or are always true. Can you give me more examples?
Sure, here are a few. She goes to school by bus. The sun rises in the east. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. They play tennis on weekends.
Great examples, Bob. I notice that we often use adverbs of frequency like always, usually, sometimes, and never with the present simple tense.
That's a good observation. These adverbs help indicate how often an action occurs. For example, I always read before bed. He usually takes a walk in the evening. They sometimes visit their grandparents. She never eats junk food.
I see. What about forming questions and negatives in the present simple tense?
For questions, we use do or does as the auxiliary verb. Do is used with I, you, we, and they, while does is used with he, she, and it. For example, do you like coffee? Does he play the guitar? For negatives, we use do not or does not. We often shorten these to don't and doesn't. For example, I do not like coffee. I don't like coffee. She does not play the guitar. She doesn't play the guitar.
That's pretty straightforward. Now, what about the present continuous tense? When do we use that?
The present continuous tense is used to describe actions that are happening right now or around this moment in time. It's also used for temporary situations and future arrangements. For example, I am talking to you right now. She is studying for her exams these days. We are meeting them for dinner tomorrow.
So, if something is happening at this very moment, or if it's a temporary situation, we use the present continuous. How do we form it?
To form the present continuous tense, we use the verb to be, am, is, are, followed by the base verb plus ing. Here are some examples. I am eating lunch. He is working on his project. They are watching a movie.
Got it. And how do we form questions and negatives in the present continuous tense?
For questions, we invert the subject and the verb to be. For example, are you coming to the party? Is she reading a book? For negatives, we add not after the verb to be. For example, I am not going to the gym. They are not playing outside.
That seems simple enough. Can you give more examples to illustrate the differences between the present simple and present continuous tenses?
Sure. Let's look at these pairs of sentences. Present simple. I read every evening. A regular habit. Present continuous. I am reading a book now. An action happening right now. Present simple. She works at a bank. A permanent job. Present continuous. She's working from home today. A temporary situation. Present. Simple. They play football on Saturdays. A regular activity. Present continuous. They are playing football in the park. An action happening now.
Those examples really help clarify the differences. I guess the context of the action is key to determining which tense to use.
Exactly. The present simple is about regular, habitual actions or general truths, while the present continuous is about actions happening at the moment or temporary situations. Another point to remember is that some verbs are not commonly used in the continuous form. These are often called stative verbs, and they describe states rather than actions.
Oh, I've heard about stative verbs. Can you give some examples?
Of course, stative verbs include verbs like know, believe, like, love, hate, want, need, prefer, understand, and seem. For example, we say, I know the answer, not I am knowing the answer. She likes ice cream, not she is liking ice cream. These verbs describe states or conditions that are generally true, so we don't use them in the continuous form.
That's interesting. Are there any exceptions or tricky parts when using these tenses?
There are always some exceptions and tricky parts. For example, some verbs can be both stative and dynamic depending on their meaning. Take the verb think. I think he is right. Stative, meaning believe. I am thinking about the problem. Dynamic, meaning consider. Another example is have. I have a car. Stative, meaning possess. I am having lunch. Dynamic, meaning eat.
I see how the context changes the meaning and the tense. That's a good point to remember. Is there anything else we should cover about these tenses?
One last thing to mention is how we use these tenses in storytelling or describing events. The present simple is often used in sports commentaries, reviews, and summaries to describe actions as if they are happening now, to create a sense of immediacy. For example, he passes the ball and she scores. The present continuous can also be used in narratives to describe a scene in progress. The sun is setting and the sky is turning orange.
That's fascinating. Using these tenses creatively can really bring stories and descriptions to life. Thanks for the detailed explanation, Bob. I feel much more confident about using the present simple and present continuous tenses now.
Anytime, Alice. It was great discussing this with you. If you have any more questions about English grammar, feel free to ask.
Thanks for tuning in to Grammar Gurus. Until next time, keep practicing and have fun with your language learning.